No, Shavua Tov, and we want to wish everyone in advance Chag Sameach, a kosher and happy Pesach, and also there's this coming Wednesday, Tuesday night, the birthday of the Rebbe Shlitah Melech HaMoshiach. We want to wish everyone happy birthday, a wholesome and wholeheartedly happy birthday, and it should be a year of success, a year of aura, light, bracha, blessing, and gimel, geula, redemption, teichef umiyad mamish. We want to remind everyone also at the beginning of the shir, everyone, there's the custom of writing the Rebbe, asking for any brachas that we would like, materially, spiritually, and especially all for the good, the geula, hashlema, v'amitis, the true and the complete redemption, and it should be teichef umiyad mamish. It can be done online at www.igrot.com, C-O-M. And we'll begin this year. In the Dvar Malchus, so in the hard copy is page 50, and the PDF file, it's on page 16. And it's divine providence that this week we begin the Sicha of the Rebbe that was said in honor of Passover, in honor of Pesach, Erev Pesach, as it's titled. Sichas Yom Vav Erev Shabbos Kodesh, the Sicha that the Rebbe gave Friday, Erev Shabbos Kodesh, the eve of Shabbos, Erev Pesach, the eve of Pesach, 5,000 Hatinose, 5,751. The Hebrew year 5,751 to the creation of the world, as it says here. Le'achrei tfilas mincha. The Rebbe gave over this sicha after the afternoon service of mincha. Aleph. Hamayla Miuchedes L'Chag Pesach, the special virtue of the holiday of Passover, B'Kvius Shana, as it is in that year 5751 in the calendar. This in addition to the fact that the holiday of Pesach every year is on the 15th of the Hebrew month of Nisan, Shechal B'Yom HaShabbos, that comes on the day of Shabbos. Ube'akvius, and in regard to as we find it in the calendar, the Pesach B'Yom HaShabbos Gufa, the Pesach that falls on the day of Shabbos itself, Neisaf Ilim Yuchad Mitzad HaBrocha, the Shabbos HaGodel. There is an addition that is brought, a special addition that is brought in regard to the blessing as far as the Shabbos HaGodol. We know that the Shabbos before Passover is called the Great Shabbos, the Grand Shabbos. Shelefonov, that comes before Passover. Kayadua Shem Yom HaShabbos, as known that from the day of Shabbos, Mizborchim Kuhu Yemin, all the days of the week are blessed. Kol Sheshis Yemei HaShavua Ad Liyom HaShabbos, all the 6 days of the week until we come to the day of Shabbos, the next Shabbos. The Ad Bichlal, and in general, Shegam Yom HaShabbos Mizborach MeHaShabbos Shelefonov, that the day of Shabbos is also blessed from the previous Shabbos that preceded it. And even more than all the other days of the week, because they have the mutual factor, which is that they are both days of Shabbat, the days of Shabbos. And if we say, or since we say, that every Shabbos is drawn from the blessing of the Shabbos that comes after it, the Shabbos HaGodol, when we're talking about the Grand Shabbos, the certainly there is a great or a grand blessing that is drawn La Shabbos Shala'achrav, to the Shabbos that comes after it, Shebeichal Chag Pesach, in which we celebrate the holiday of Pesach. Again, this is then in the year 5751. It was 1991 in the secular date. The Ilui Neisaf B'Kvius Shanazu, and an additional aspect of virtue in the calendar this year, that the holiday of Pesach is celebrated during the week that we are reading, that we are escorted by the portion of Shmini in the book of Vayikra and the book of Leviticus. And we must explain the contents and the connection, the shaychus, and the bonding that the hamailis b'chag Pesach in regard to the virtue of the holiday of Pesach b'shana zu of this year, kviuse b'yom Shabbos, the fact that according to the calendar it is celebrated on the first day is celebrated on Shabbos. Habrocha miuchedes mishabbos hagodol, and the special blessing that we mentioned that comes from the previous Shabbos, the grand Shabbos, Shabbos hagodol, Parasha Shmini, and the portion of Shmini that we said escorts the entire holiday of Pesach until we come to the next, the Shabbos after Passover, that we read the portion in actuality on Shabbat. This includes, and especially in regard to the eve of Passover, the eve of Pesach. Besides the fact that it is the eve, Yom Tov, which is a holiday, and in the holidays itself, Rishon Laragolim, it is the first of all the festivals. We have the Shlitah, the 3 festivals, and the first, according to the calendar, the Jewish calendar, when we count the months according to the beginning of the months is Nisan, and so the first festival that we have, even when we're counting from Rosh Hashanah, the first festival that we encounter is the festival of Pesach, after which comes the second festival, Shavuos, and afterwards the holiday of Sukkot. Pesach nizvasef beishana zu shehu gam erev Shabbos. It is added to this Pesach that we see that it is also the eve of Shabbos. The erev Shabbos shemizbarach mishabbos hagodol, and it's the eve of Shabbos that is blessed from the grand Shabbos, Shabbos hagodol, or Parashas Shmini kedulakaman, and also blessed, as we said, with the eighth, the portion of Shmini, as will be explained. The Rebbe says, base Pesach shechal b'Shabbos. When we're talking about Pesach that falls on the Shabbat, Shabbos Yom Hashvi Levias Ha'olam, the 7th day to the creation of the world. Koshu Meire al Shleimus Ha'olam, is connected to and instructs us in regard to the completion of the creation of the world. K'maimer b'seinu, as the saying of our rabbis of blessed memory, Ma haya ha'olam chosem nucha. What was the world lacking? Menucha. It was lacking rest. Bas Shabbos, bas menucha. And so came Shabbat, and so also came rest, came the peace and tranquility to the world. Hainu, in other words, that after the completion of the creation of the world, in the 6 days of creation, the world was still lacking. The world was still missing. What was the world missing? It was missing menucha. It was missing peace. It was missing rest, tranquility. Over Shabbos nishlam hachison shabaylam shleimus ha'olam, and it was with the 7th day, the day of Shabbos, that the world was brought to its completion, and this brought that which was lacking, the completion that was brought with Shabbos, the concept of rest, menucha, and this brought to the completion of the entire world. And in Passover, in which we were redeemed, we had our exodus, redemption from Egypt. This is connected and instructs us in regard to the level of Hashemliness that is above the world, that is above the creation. For even when we come to the completion of the creation, as we mentioned above, we came to Shabbos, the completion of the creation, there is still something that is lacking, that is still something that is missing. Because we are still in the concept of Egypt. Milshon Meitzar Ukvul, which comes from the root word of Meitzar, the concept of barriers and boundaries, straits and boundaries. And what is the true completion? The Torah teaches us when we are redeemed from the straits and boundaries of Mitzrayim, even after the first day of Shabbos in the creation, where the world came to its level of rest and completion, but it still isn't the level of being redeemed from Mitzrayim, being redeemed from Egypt. The Shleimus Ha'olam, for the completion of the world, says the Rebbe, Ba'ifin shel dilug, in a manner of skipping over Pesach al Shem HaDilug V'Psicha, the holiday of Pesach. It also is the root of the word comes from the concept of dilug, skipping, and psicha, passing over. That hence also the name of the holiday, Passover. And this relates to that which is above the boundaries of the mundane and material world. And when we're talking about this year, as we find it in the calendar, that the holiday of Pesach falls on Shabbos. We say that this year is not that far apart because the holiday of Pesach falls Motzei Shabbos. So we're already in the climax of preparation during the Shabbat. Mischabrim Beis HaMailos, the Rebbe says, both of these virtues are connected. Pesach b'Shabbos, the virtue of Pesach and the virtue of Shabbos, gam yachad, together. Shadarga shalamayla me'aylam, that the level that is above the world, Pesach, as we mentioned before, this is the category of the holiday of Passover. Nimshechas v'chayderes is drawn and penetrates gam begidrei ha'olam, also in the reigns of the world, and that which is represented by Shabbos. And in another manner of saying, lezu bilvad, not only this, that the Jewish nation are redeemed, and we exit Egypt. In other words, that we are elevated to a level that is above the world, but beyond this, that we are able to elevate the world itself, the mundanity and the materiality of the world, to a level which is that exceeds the boundaries of the material world. Gimel, Shabbos Shebeichal Pesach, a Shabbos in which Pesach falls, Shemizbarach Mishabbos Hagodol, that is blessed from the grand Shabbos, like we said before, the Shabbos that precedes the holiday of Pesach. This coming Shabbos is the Shabbos Hagodol that precedes the holiday of Pesach, because Pesach is Saturday night, Sunday. Matzei Shabbos. Inyana shel Shabbos Hagodol. What is the concept of the grand Shabbos, Shabbos Hagodol? Gadlus be'inyan haShabbos, the greatness which is in the concept of Shabbos itself. That in addition to the completion of the creation of the world, Inyana shel Shabbos, which represents the concept of Shabbos, there is a drawn down and it is, and we have in actuality greatness that is above the boundaries of the creation of the world. Hainu, in other words, that the world itself is elevated to a level that is above the world. In other words, everything goes up. Everything is elevated. The entire creation. And this is as stressed in regard to the great miracle, the Lemake Mitzrayim Bivchoreim, that Hashem comes and smites the Egyptians through their firstborn, through their most holy, through the elite of the Egyptians, the firstborn. That's what this connotates, the firstborn. Shal Shem Ze Nikra Shabbos HaGodol. And this is the reason that it's called Shabbos HaGodol. And it's brought in halacha. This is brought in Shulchan Aruch, in the Jewish code of law. The Alter Rebbe brings it very, very specifically. That the miracle is not in a manner that we negate the boundaries of nature, in a manner that it comes only above the nature, but in a manner that it penetrates the nature itself. To change the nature of the world, and to transform it. And this is what the connotation of Hashem, who has smitten the Egyptians through their firstborn. That nature itself is elevated and is brought to a level which is above nature. V'yesh leimar, must say, says the Rebbe, that the contents of the blessing that is drawn from the grand Shabbos, lechag Pesach, to the holiday of Pesach, the whole Shana, who every year, annually, is that also the level that is above the level of the world, Pesach, which is represented by the holiday of Pesach, will be drawn and revealed in the boundaries of the mundane world. And this is in the exemplary and similarly to the grand miracle, the Shabbos HaGadol of the grand Shabbos. The inyan zehu ba'ad goshe yisera b'Pesach shechal b'Shabbos. And this concept is even more stressed when we're talking about a Pesach that falls on Shabbos. She'abracha shemekabel chag Pesach, that the blessing that the holiday of Pesach receives, mishabbos HaGadol, from the grand Shabbos, nikeres begolui, is seen on a revealed basis, be'akvius the chag Pesach b'yom Shabbos, in regard to the fact that Pesach falls on the day of Shabbos. Again, this is in the year 5751, 1991. Not this year. This year it is Motzei Shabbos, the culmination of Shabbos. Then we celebrate the Seder night, or we begin to celebrate the Seder nights, Saturday night and Sunday night in the diaspora. In which is stressed the connection and the level of the level of that which is beyond and above the world with the mundane world itself. We'll read one more ice, so that will be we'll read one more ice in order that we'll be able to have a full. We'll be able to fill ourselves spiritually for the holiday of Pesach. Dalet. The third thing that the Rebbe mentioned was the fact that we are escorted throughout the Pesach with a portion of Shmini, which, by the way, is similar this year as well, because this Shabbos we read the Parsha of Tzav, and the holiday of Pesach, from Mincha on of Shabbos, we're reading the portion of Shmini. The Rebbe says, Parashas Shmini, the portion of Shmini, Shmini Moiral Dargesh L'mayla Me'a'olam. Shmini represents the level which is beyond or above the creation, above the world. Why? For the entity of the world, even when we are relating to the completion of the world. Like we said, the first Shabbos, and since then every Shabbos, is connected with the number 7. These are the 7 days of the creation of the world, Bereshis, which are the 7 days of the Hekef. Hekef are the encompassing days, because they make up the 7 days of the cycle of the creation, which repeats itself from the beginning of the creation every single week until this week and forward. And when we're talking about the number 8, this is connected with the level that is above the creation, above the world. And it hints to the concepts of redemption. This is the redemption from the boundaries and the straits and the boundaries of the creation of the world. And the Rebbe says, and to comment, that the virtue of the 8th is also stressed in the holiday of Passover. In addition to the fact that in both of them we find that is stressed the skipping or the passing over that is above the boundaries of the world, of nature, for we see that the eighth day of Passover, the Chutz La'aretz, when we're talking about the diaspora, Shayach b'miuchad is especially connected, Yesem Mishar Yemei Pesach, more than all the other days of Passover, Lahagi'ula Hasidolave, with the upcoming redemption that we'll be celebrating immediately now. Al Yedei Moshiach Tzidkenu, that will be coming and will be revealed through the Rebbe Shlitah Melech HaMoshiach. Shalachen Maftirin B'Nevuas HaGeula, and therefore we see that the Torah, the additional reading that comes after the reading of the holiday for the 8th day of Pesach is V'yotza Choter Migeza Yishai, and there will be a branch that will come forth from the root, from the root of Yishai, from David HaMelech. V'eichlim Seudas Mashiach, and we eat on the 8th day of Pesach. We eat the meal, the festive meal of Mashiach. Kayadua Mefursam, as is known and is fully publicized, Haminag HaMekubal Me'Baal Shem Tov, this custom that has been received from the times of the holy Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement. Ushmini hu gam milshon shuman, and Shmini, the Rebbe says, is also coming from the concept of shuman, fat. Shemepa'apeh b'kulei, when we're talking about a fatty substance or oily substance, so we see that it does not only remain in the one place that it is found, but when it appears or when it is connected with any substance, it goes and it is drawn forth throughout the entire entity of the substance that it is connected with. And this is as found in the law, in the Jewish code of law. That in this is hinted that the elevation of the portion of Shmini, that is above the creation, like we said, Hugam ba'ofen shel shuman, is also in a manner of shuman, of fat, that spreads in the entire entity of which it is connecting with, not only in the spot that it touches. Hainu, in other words, that it is drawn and penetrates also the boundaries and the straits of the creation of the world. The Rebbe ends off here, Ois Dalet, and says, and a special virtue in regard to, as we find this year in the calendar, that we read, and it was on the 8th day, Shmoina Pe'amim. In that year, it was read 8 times. The portion of Shmini was read 8 times. If you make the cheshbon, the calculation, so it's read on Mincha, and then it's read also the following Mincha, and then it's read again on Monday and Thursday. Then it's finally read again on Shabbos. That there we see a greater stress. In both concepts, the Shmini, that in regard to the concept of Shmini, this in regard to the level of Hashemliness, which is beyond the creation, that exceeds the creation. Since the concept of Shmini, it returns and is doubled over and repeats itself with elevation after elevation, 8 times. And this is also in regard to that concept that we mentioned of revelation in the boundaries of the mundane world. Shemen, oil, that spreads throughout the entire entity of which it comes in contact with. Since the concept of Shmini, Gufa itself, is in a manner of fat, of oil, coming from the word itself. The definition of the word itself, like we said, one of the definitions is fat, oil. Kayadua, as known, hapisgam, the saying, Shmini, Shmeina, Shmeina, a year that we read the portion of Shmini, Shmeina, 8 times, is a fat year, is a very abundant and fruitful year. Well, like we said, when we read the portion of Shmini 8 times, then the entire year becomes a fatty year, a prosperous year, a successful year, to the extent that we will be able to celebrate the true and the complete redemption, the Gula Shlema Vamitis, with the revelation of the Rebbe Shlitah Melech HaMashiach, and it should be Teichef Yad, Mamish, immediately now. We want to wish everyone, the participants and all those that will be able to see the shir after it's put up on YouTube, a kosher and freilich and Pesach, a kosher and happy Passover, and it should be a true holiday of freedom, liberation from all the straits and from all the boundaries of the mundane and material world, liberation from the Yetzer Hara, and from everything that is holding us back, Rahman Litzlan, from adding in our Torah study, in our observance of the mitzvahs. And it should bring, even with this good blessing and resolution, it should bring the revelation of the Rebbe Shlitah Melech HaMashiach, finding ourselves immediately in the third and the eternal Beis Hamikdash, and definitely in honor of the holiday of Passover, we'll be eating our Paschal lambs in the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi with the Geula Hashlema Vamitis immediately now. Yechi Adonenu Moreinu V'Rabbeinu HaMelech HaMashiach Le'olam Voed. Amen ve'amen.